Israel having a fallout with the United Nations due to deadly airstrikes. This is Undiluted News. Mikey Bones reporting. Deadly Israeli airstrikes on the Gaza Strip, largest refugee camp, could amount to war crimes according to the United Nations office. Israeli strikes have targeted the Jabalia refugee camp twice in 2 days, killing and wounding dozens according to the health ministry in the Hamas-run Palestinian territory. Israel said on Tuesday's raid was a successful hit on top Hamas commander Ibrahim Biari. Israel has relentlessly pounded Gaza in retribution for the worst attack in the country's history. Hamas gunmen stormed across the border from Gaza on October 7, killing 1,400 Israelis, mostly civilians, and taking more than 230 hostages, according to Israeli officials. Israel's retaliatory bombing campaign has killed over 8,000 people, mainly women and children, according to Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry. Over in Jamaica, disgruntled dental surgeons gathered outside the Ministry of Finance in Kingston on Wednesday as their industrial action against alleged mistreatment by the government entered its second day. Among the complaints of the dental surgeons is their remuneration under the new compensation scheme, with a representative asserting that mistreatment will only encourage them to leave the island. The dental surgeons shouted in unison messages such as dentists need livable wages and no discrimination against dentists. Jesse James Clark, a junior shadow minister spokesman on health for the opposition People's National Party, said the protest is unfortunate, adding that the Ministry of Health and Finance should be very concerned about the matter. He said a continued mistreatment of the dental surgeons will encourage a mass exodus. An operation by the Spanish Town Police on Jones Pen Lane in St. Catherine on Monday led to the seizure of a semi-automatic pistol and 10 rounds of ammunition. Reports are that about 10:30 in the morning, a team of lawmen acting on information conducted an operation at a premises in the community. 2 men were seen at the address and a search was conducted in which a Star 9mm semi-automatic pistol and a magazine containing 10 9mm rounds of ammunition were found in a knapsack that was being carried by one of the men. It was seized and the men were taken into custody. Their identities are now being withheld pending an investigation. A businessman and a woman were robbed of over $500,000 at gunpoint in Monique St. Anne on Tuesday evening. Reports are that about 6:30 p.m. the man and the woman were at a supermarket they operate when they were held up by 3 armed men who traveled to the location in 2 vehicles, a Toyota Axio and a Toyota Probox. The robbers then escaped. The Ocho Rios police are now investigating that incident. Meanwhile, the father of a bus driver who was shot and killed by the police in Spanish Town in St. Catherine in 2020 has been acquitted of wounding a policeman during that same incident. Denver Needman was cleared of all charges in the St. Catherine Parish Court on Tuesday. He is the father of Alex Needham, who was killed on Wednesday, July 1st in 2020. Of the incident, the police report that about 6:15 p.m., the elder Needham used a machete to chop a policeman on his right hand. He then fled the scene. However, Mr. Needham categorically denied this version of event and feels vindicated by his acquittal. He said that the police was the attacker and his son tried to defend himself. He said the cop then fired twice at his son and missed him, then aimed at his chest and shot him. He said the police then went over his son to execute him and he used a machete to knock the gun out of the policeman's hand. They then charged him for wounding, but he exclaimed to the jury that he slapped the policeman with the machete. I did so with the intention to save my son's life. I didn't chop the policeman from behind to kill him or injure him, only to stop him from shooting my son a third time. The judge and the jury agreed with him and set him free. A security guard at a housing scheme in Clarendon was shot dead at a compound yesterday afternoon. The deceased has been identified as Dwayne Anderson from Old Harbor in St. Catherine. Preliminary reports are that about 4 p.m., Anderson was on duty at a Hummingbird housing scheme in Bird Hill in the parish when he was approached by several men. Police said the men pulled handguns and rifles and opened fire on the security guard. He was hit multiple times. The men then reportedly fled the housing scheme. No motive has been established for that attack, the police said. The 2 men charged for the murder of National Cricket Administrator and Vice Principal of G.C. Foster College, Gibbs Williams, was remanded when they appeared before the St. Catherine Parish Court on Friday last. The men, O'Dane Watson and Jerome Hales, were remanded until December 18. They were charged last month for the October 6 shooting death of the 55-year-old sport administrator outside a medical facility in Portmore in St. Catherine. We now move on to sports. We're going to start with Manning Cup. Kingston College are through to the quarterfinals of the Manning Cup after a 4-1 second leg win over Campion College at Stadium East to advance on a 7-3 aggregate. Meanwhile, defending champions Jamaica College made light work of Eltham 3-1 to book their spot in the last 8. St. Andrew Technical High School, meantime, after beating Kingston Tech 4-0 in the first game, came back and gave them a dominant score of 7-0 in the second. Mona High, who beat Jonathan Grant 4-0 in the first game, put on another show and beat them 6-1 again in the second game yesterday. Hydel, who drew their first game with Excelsior 0-0, did a crowd pleaser and beat Excelsior 3-1. St. George's College, who won 2-0 in their first game, did another number and beat St. Jago 3-0. St. Catherine High beat Wolmer's 3-1 yesterday with an aggregate of 5-1 after beating them 2-0 in the first game. And in the very last match, Tivoli put on a show beating Haile Selassie High 2-1 after a 0-0 draw in the first game. On to Dacosta Cup, defending champions Clarendon College edged Stets 1-0 to stay unbeaten this year and move to 6 points from 2 games, leaving Stets on 3 points. Cornwall College, meantime, is now tied with Stets after they pick up 3 points, beating Mile Gully 2-0. In the other zone, BB Coke handed Manchester High a 4-2 beating to move to 6 points. Manchester remain on 3 points with 1 win from 2 games. And in this same zone, Taki will play Happy Grove tomorrow. In the other zone, Magrat for the second time played to a 0-0 draw with William Nib to move to only 2 points, while Nib earned their first point after losing 3-1 to Christiana in the first game. Christiana, meantime, lost 1-0 to Dinthill and remain on 3 points, and Dinthill now moved to 4 points after a win and a draw. Garvey Massey edged Froome Technical in their zone, beating them 1-0 to move to 4 points and take the lead. Froome remains on 3 points, while Glenmore in this same zone was ruthless with a 5-0 whipping of Port Antonio to also move to 4 points, tying Garvey Massey. And don't forget that the best Manning Cup and Dacosta Cup reports take place on this radio station. If you ever missed the news on this station, please go to YouTube, type in Jamaican Undiluted, listen, like, share, and subscribe to keep it going. That's going to be news and sports on your favorite radio. My name is Mikey Bones. I gone.